The air was frigid, even for a winter morning in Kufa. The year was 661 AD. A thin layer of frost clung to the mud brick buildings, and the sky was just beginning to lighten with the promise of dawn. Inside the great mosque, a lone figure prepared for the Fajr prayer. This was no ordinary man. This was Ali ibn Abi Talib, the fourth caliph of Islam, a man revered for his wisdom, courage, and unwavering faith. Ali, despite his position of power, lived a simple life. He was a man of deep piety who found solace in his connection with God. As he performed his ablutions, the rhythmic flow of water washing over his hands mirrored the tranquility he found in prayer. He donned his simple white robe, a stark contrast to the opulent attire often favored by rulers. Soon the mosque began to fill with worshippers, drawn by the call to prayer echoing through the quiet streets of Kufa. Among them were Ali's close companions, men who had fought alongside him in countless battles and shared his unwavering commitment to justice and the teachings of Islam. These men, hardened by years of conflict, greeted Ali with a warmth and familiarity that belied their warrior pasts. Their faces, etched with the hardships of a life spent defending their faith, softened as they exchanged greetings with their leader. They saw in him not just a ruler, but a beacon of hope in a world increasingly consumed by strife and division. Unbeknownst to those gathered in the mosque, a storm was brewing. The early Islamic community, still grappling with its newfound political identity after the Prophet Muhammad's death, was rife with internal tensions. Dissension had been sowing for years, fueled by power struggles and differing interpretations of Islam's core tenets. Whispers of discontent had reached a fever pitch in recent months. A group known as the Kharijites, initially allies of Ali in his struggle for leadership, had become disillusioned. They viewed Ali's willingness to negotiate with his enemies as a sign of weakness, a betrayal of the pure and uncompromising Islam they believed in. The Kharijites, known for their extreme piety and strict adherence to a literal interpretation of the Quran, had become increasingly vocal in their condemnation of Ali's rule. They saw him as an illegitimate leader, an obstacle to the establishment of a true Islamic state. Their anger festered, finding a dangerous outlet in the hands of a young man consumed by a lust for revenge. His name was Abdul Rahman ibn Muljam, and he was a Kharijite extremist who had sworn a blood oath to avenge what he perceived as Ali's transgressions. Ibn Muljam was a figure shrouded in darkness, his heart hardened by a twisted sense of righteousness. He saw himself as an instrument of God's will, chosen to deliver justice to a world gone astray. He had arrived in Kufa weeks earlier, his every move cloaked in secrecy as he plotted his deadly mission. He found kindred spirits among the Kharijites in Kufa, men and women who shared his rage and thirst for vengeance. Together they hatched a plan to assassinate Ali, believing that his death would pave the way for a new era of Islamic purity. They were blind to the irony of their actions, their hearts so consumed by hatred that they failed to see how far they had strayed from the very principles of peace and compassion that Islam held dear. As Ali led the Fajr prayer, Ibn Muljam and two co-conspirators slipped unnoticed into the mosque. They hid among the rows of worshippers, their faces obscured by the dim light that filtered through the mosque's arched windows. The air grew thick with anticipation, the silence punctuated only by the soft rustle of robes and the rhythmic murmur of prayers. Ibn Muljam clutched the hilt of his poisoned dagger, his knuckles white with tension. His eyes, burning with a fanatic zeal, never left Ali's figure as the caliph prostrated himself in prayer, his forehead touching the ground in humble submission.